Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Guard Tactics, by popular demand, I will be bringing you some Death Guard list review, and today I'm looking at the 2000 points Harbingers list from the Terminus Est assault force. So let's get started. So today, the 15th of April, the weather and lockdown conditions improving where I'm located, and I really hope soon that the local stores can host games again. They are open, but not for games like they were at some point. I can't really wait anymore to take my Death Guard out for a new spin after getting, let's say, Blooded Tooth from the Crusades and the 2000 point battle. But until then, I'm going to be looking at a little bit more on Death Guard list reviews. And in this episode, in this video, I will be looking at the 2000 points Harbingers list with a Terminus Est assault force. And this is a list provided by Dennis Atlink, who is a patron and a good supporter of the channel. Dennis is a competitive player based in Holland, and I've from all the information and support from Dennis, I haven't heard of any game he has lost so far. So thanks, Dennis, for sharing this list. And so I will be looking at the list overview, ideas for secondaries and deployment, some strategy and general ideas, and then looking at some metrics for this list, comparing to, for example, some other lists regarding the damage, the durability, board control, etc. And before I start, big thanks and shout out to all my patrons. The horde is increasing. We have, let's say, different cohorts of 7 people. So there is room now in Sepsis cohort Gamma to be filled out to reach the magical number of 7. Otherwise, Tallyman is a bit upset. And a brief historical parenthesis. The numerals in ancient Greece were basically based on the letters, which makes the progress in mathematics that the ancient Greeks achieve even more impressive in my mind. I mean, just trying to think how to calculate quickly what lambda delta plus iota vita gives, it requires a bit more math skills than the Arabic numerals we're using today. But let's close this historical parenthesis and get going on the list overview. So here we have Dennis Death Guard Terminus Est 2000 points list. And here we have a battalion, of course, Harbingers Plague Company, and then Terminus Est Assault Force. This has 10 command points left. 2 are used to give some extra warlord traits and relics, which I will go through. And we're starting with the HQ choice. We have, of course, Typhus as the warlord. He has the Shamble Rod warlord trait and the warlord trait specifically from the Terminus Est Assault Force. His powers are Miasma of Pestilence and Putrescent Vitality, and Typhus is 165 points. Then we have a Demon Prince of Wings, with wings, equipped with a Hellforged Sword, the best option of the Demon Prince. He has the Rotten Constitution Warlord trait for 1 CP, bringing up to Toughness 7 and ignoring the AP of AP 1 and 2 weapons. They are treated with AP 0, and he takes the Gifts of Plague and Psychic Power that is increasing the contagion range for 185 points. And then the trio in the headquarters is rounded off by Malignant Plaguecaster, of course. He takes the relic Filth Sensors, which is Terminus Est Assault Force specific, and he takes powers from the Festering Discipline, the Lung Rot, and the Pernicious Dose. I will go back to explain what those are doing, and he's costing 95 points. Then we come to the main body, let's say, the troops here. Here we have 4 units of 20 Poxwalkers, so for 400 points in total, 100 points per squad. And we have a small unit of Plague Marines, the cheapest one, 5 Plague Marines with bolters and knives, 405 points. These guys are mainly there for a bit of objective secure, and it allows to take the 4th unit of Poxwalkers. And then in the elite slot, we have a big chunk of the army here. We have the Tallyman for 70 points with no relics or other upgrades. Then we have almost needed character here, the Foul Blight Spawn, with a viscous pathogen upgrade, allowing him to reroll his number of shots with a plague sprayer, and he brings the Revolting Vats, Stance Vats relic for 1 CP, giving him his nice aura of 6-inch, where opponents cannot fight first and they don't count as having charged. And especially in such a melee list, it's important that our units can fight first. So Foul Blight Spawn and Taliman are basically auto-include for most of the list, I would consider. Then we have a big chunk, 10 Blightlord Terminators, 2 guys equipped with flails, and the rest 8 have axes and combi bolters for 410 points. So this is a big unit, many wounds, adds some shooting, and a lot of melee also with the flails. And then we have the five Death Guard Terminators. The champion has extra gauntlet, and he also carries the chimes of contagion, giving plus 3-inch to the contagion range of the Death Shroud, 270 points. And then finally a 4-man squad of Death Shroud Terminators, also with chimes, bringing the total to 2,000 points. So the unit selections, of course, Typhus, bringing Typhus to a Terminus Est list, I think thematically feels really good, and I guess also it's really important in a list with a Terminus Est assault force where you can't bring vehicles, that you bring strong characters, and Typhus is one of the strongest character. And feels like an auto-include, as I said, in the Terminus Est assault force, being the leader of the force. And then the Demon Prince with wings and the Hellforged Sword, he adds more melee damage. With his Hellforged Sword, he can do good damage versus vehicles. He has a faster movement than the other characters, and he can cast the psychic spells. And then the Plague Caster rounding up the trio of HQ with his psychic powers. And I think it's important, as I said, to bring strong characters when you can't bring strong vehicles. You need to compensate, I believe, with characters. So I think it makes good sense to bring a Lord, a Demon Prince, and the Plague Caster here. And then the 80 Poxwalkers, as I said, constitute the main body of the army. They can get the board presence, they can get the board control, and they could do loads of damage in melee, especially if we use the stratagems. We can use the Harbingers, the Mutant Strain from the Death Guard Codex, and then the Wrathful Dead from which is Harbinger specifics, and then they can be fishing. They can do mortal wounds on 6s to hit, and with Wrathful Dead, they can reroll everything, all hit roll, so they could really do a lot of nasty mortal wounds on top of their normal attacks. I think the key for these Poxwalkers and this list is to use the stratagem Unleash the Hordes to give the Poxwalkers plus 3-inch move and plus 3-inch to their pile-in move. So this is cost 2 command points, and then all the Poxwalker units can do this. And also keep in mind that for 3 command points, a whole Poxwalker unit can be brought back to life, coming in from any board edge, if it's destroyed or below half strength. And this is of course a Terminus Est specific stratagem, like the Unleash the Hordes. And additionally, for every Poxwalker, you can use a stratagem for 1 CP in a command phase to bring back up to 7 lost models. So the Poxwalkers can move fast in the Terminus Est, and they can do a lot in melee with the stratagems, and they can be brought back to life with stratagems, or as they kill enemy infantry units, they can fill the ranks back up again. The Plague Marines is basically just a cheap unit to be able to get 4 Poxwalker units on the board. Taliman should be an auto-include for this command point hungry army. The Poxwalkers with these stratagems are excellent, but you need a lot of command points to give them the Unleash the Hordes, to bring them back, to do a lot of things, to do extra damage. So therefore the Taliman bringing extra command points with high degree of certainty every turn is really helpful in this configuration. There is no point in bringing the Tollkeeper relic in this list, as there is not so much shooting to buff. and the shooting is not the focus of this build. The Foul Blightspawn with the Revolting Stance Bats will allow the Terminators and Poxwalkers to strike first. Where he is on the table, he will be denying the enemy the possibility to fight first in charge phase. The big unit of Blightlord Terminators adds the most significant shooting in the army, and also are capable in melee, and a very durable number of wounds on the table. And the two flails are there for the melee with combi bolters and axes. And then the two units of Death Shroud. Death Shroud are one of our strongest melee damage dealers for their points. They constitute the spearhead, the melee spearhead of this army, and they can be used as forward units. They can deep strike, and both units here, Dennis, have taken the Chimes of Contagion for spreading. As forward units, they could be spreading the contagion early on, dropping in, maybe with a Demon Prince casting the Gift of Plagues on them. And they could also be, if we use the Flash Outbreak on them, they could also be spreading the Shamble Rot of Typhus. So thoughts about deployment and secondaries. In this, the idea is to put everything on the table except the two units of Death Shroud, which will be deep striking. So no point in putting, for example, Plague Marines here in strategic reserve. And here we can see that one deployment here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Poxwalkers, and then we have the characters with a 10-man Blight Lords and Plague Marines here in the middle, and then the Poxwalkers, everything can advance, and then the Death Shroud will arrive either as the anvil or the hammer, depending on where they land, crushing maybe the opponents in their melee. And the secondaries for this list would be While We Stand We Fight, which will be the 3 most expensive units in the most costly units in the army. And here it's the 3 Terminator units, which is one of the units that you would like to have. The 10 Blightlord Terminators with 4+ invul save are not very easy to dislodge. And then Domination could be with his very high board control. Passively, if you have quite a lot of the board and control a lot of the objectives, you just get bonus extra points. And then Spread the Sickness as an action, and here there is plenty of Poxwalkers, and even the Plague Marines could be doing a bit of spreading the sickness on the contagions as they move up the board. And in general, the idea behind the secondaries here is the best secondaries. This is one thing that is Dennis. An idea, strategy here is that the best secondaries are those that give you points just for existing on the table and not having to kill anything or be moving. So more these passive types like Domination and While We Stand We Fight. You could score a lot of points, and you were trying to do what you, for example, Domination fits well by just trying to take the objectives. So the psychic powers. So this army has quite high psychic power prowess here. They can cast five spells per turn and deny 3. So there should be, versus most armies, they should be dominating the psychic phase. The Typhus took here Miasma of Pestilence and Putrescent Vitality to protect Poxwalkers and Terminators, and he can also increase the damage of the Poxwalkers. The Poxwalkers can become Strength 5, Toughness 5 unit if they are near Typhus with Putrescent Vitality. The Demon Prince takes the Gifts of Plague to increase the contagion by 6 inches, selecting 1 unit, and he's the fastest Psyker, and he can cast it on the forward the Death Shroud unit when they come from Deep Strike. And the Plague Caster here uses the powers from the Festering Discipline in combination with the relic Filth Sensors. The Filth Sensors relic is a Terminus Est relic, which increases the range of the spells by 6 inches. And then these 2 psychic powers chosen, I think those are some of the best ones in the Fester Discipline. The Pernicious Dose gets a 6+6-inch range, so you can select a friendly unit within 12 inches because he has the field sensors, and then you reroll all hit rolls with plague weapons. So this is really good for Terminators or Typhus, even Typhus in melee. A big unit of Terminators attacking with their cleaves, and the Death Shroud, for example, it feels bad to lose, let's say, a couple of hit rolls. Here you can reroll everything, even if there is no Lord close by. And then the Lung Rod, you select an enemy unit within 18 inches, so it becomes 24 inches with the field sensors. This is a quite strong, debilitating psychic power, where the enemy unit cannot advance, and it can only charge an enemy within 6 inches, and it cannot reroll its charge rolls. So this can be very good to stop the enemy from having a very high, very strong opponent enemy melee unit. It could be stopped in its tracks early, or it could be some shooty units that are trying to fall back and run away from the oncoming Death Guard. So quite an interesting psychic power, this Lung Rod. So the strategy and general ideas, I think in my head, I think, yeah, the strength of this army comes from the sheer number of bodies and the melee abilities. I would assume, therefore, that the best strategy with his army is a general advance with the Poxwalkers and using Unleash the Horde stratagem, so they can move 7 inches, together with the characters, together with the Blightlord Terminators, to take control of the board and to come into melee and to lock down the enemy units. I think this list cannot stand really back and play passively, or there is not much long range shooting here, and it would just allow your opponent to shoot away the Poxwalkers. And the Poxwalkers can spread the sickness as they reach objectives and for the secondary points. And it's interesting to use this the ability to bring back a destroyed Poxwalker unit. If you use strategically, it could open up a new flank. It could be that a killed Poxwalker unit here can reappear in the backfield from this edge and maybe contest some objectives and make some charges, etc. So that's quite interesting. And also 20 Poxwalkers can fill really a big space. If you have them, let's say, in 2 ranks, they could be basically filling out 20 inches of length, or 18 to be sure. So you could fill with 4 20-man units. You can control a large portion of the board. The Foul Blightspawn, Taliman, the other characters can follow the Blightlords, improving their shooting. Maybe some Poxwalkers could screen the Blightlords, but also maybe you just want the Blightlords to come and to be engaged in melee. Even if they get charged, the Foul Blightspawn would allow them to fight first. And then the Death Shroud would deep strike in turn 2, where their opportunities arise on the board, and they can spread the contagion, hopefully add some shooting, hopefully making the charges, and basically, yeah, cutting down, closing in, and engaging with the enemy. So some list metrics. So I was just trying to see how much damage output as a baseline the army has, and I was looking at what type of damage it can do across the General Yanis 31 targets I typically look at. And if we look at the Terminus Est assault force, basically at long range, it only has the bolters of the Plague Marines and the combi bolters of the Blightlord Terminators. So it can only do a couple of wounds on average. If every weapon that could fire at the same time, could only do a few wounds. In short range, at 12 inches, not regarding the grenades, of course, the bolters can still shoot, but we have here the plague sprayer, the Foul Blightspawn, some pistols, and we have the Death Shroud's gauntlets, but still it's only, let's say, 10 wounds, 12 wounds on average across a lot of targets if we could get all the shooty weapons to shoot at the same time. But here in melee is where this army has its strength. Here we have the 80 Poxwalkers fighting, we have the Hellforged Sword with the Demon Prince, we have the Typhus getting 1 extra attack from the Terminus Est. even the Plaguecaster, and then of course the Death Shroud and our Terminators, and even the Plague Marines with the Plague Knives. It could be doing, if the whole army was in melee, it could do let's say 70-80 wounds here on average across the targets, and this is the baseline with no buffs or rerolls or anything like that. No strength improvements for the Poxwalkers. This is just to see what is the potential power of this army. And with the orange here, you can see the list I took for the game, 2000 points against the Ultramarines. You can see here with the Plague Burst Crawlers and Blight Launchers and things like that, I have had a comparably much higher long range damage. I also had better short range damage with the Speeders, the Plague Sprayer as well. But in melee, of course, not as high a wound count as the Terminus Est. What is not shown here, as I said, is only the baseline, but the Poxwalkers could deal a lot of extra mortal wounds in melee. A unit of 20 Poxwalkers with the 2 stratagems, Mutant Strain and Wrathful Dead, could be doing plus 10 to 12 mortal wounds on average. And of course, with the rerolls, you could do massive damage as long as you can get these important units to come into melee. And this list, of course, has the advantage in psychic power compared to the list I took here. So here, the Terminus Est list can cast 5 powers and deny 3 per turn, and my inexorable list could cast 2 powers and deny only 1. Finally, looking at the durability and the wounds put on the table in the different list, again, not buffed, not taking into account cover or miasma or putrescent vitality or something like this. So the Terminus Est list, the Demon Prince has some wounds that are toughness 7 with a 5+ invul, disgusting resilience. And then there is a lot of wounds here in this bracket where we have toughness 5, disgusting resilience, and the 4+ invul. This is all our Terminators and Typhus. And we have the Plague Marines and the supporting characters. They have toughness 5, disgusting resilience, but only a 3+ save. And so this is, let's say, how many number of wounds we are putting on the table that the enemy has to take out. And then we have here the 80 toughness 4 Poxwalkers with 6+, feel no pain. And on with the orange, you can see the wounds that my inexorable list had. So here we have the Plague Burst Crawlers with toughness 8, the Miasmic Malignifier. Here was the 30 Blow Drones, and here we had again Terminators, the Plague Marines, and here I had a few Poxwalkers in this list. But as mentioned previously, a lot of extra Poxwalkers can be brought back with the Terminus Est stratagems. You can bring back a whole 20-man unit for 3 command points. So in essence, you could add, let's say, 20 more wounds on the table. Each unit of each of these 4 units can be selected once in the battle to be refilled with a couple of Poxwalkers. So for 1 command point, you get 7 rolls, and a 3+ would be bringing back 4.5 Poxwalkers. So you can basically do a lot of, you can really make your opponent have very difficult time trying to remove your Poxwalkers if you play the stratagems right, and if you also unleash the Horde, you go fast up, you minimize the number of rounds where you get shot at, and you come into melee where the Poxwalkers and the sheer numbers can win you the game. So some summary and final thoughts. So I think this was a very interesting list, a very interesting infantry only Death Guard list with the Terminus Est. And I can just tell you that in the game, Dennis, he beat his opponent with his list quite comfortably, basically tabling the opponent and scoring, I think it was 85 to 20 points or something like this. It was Chaos Space Marines opponent. This list has a high body count and a very high potential to gain board control, suffocating the enemy, and with a very high melee capability. There is a good psychic power in the army, but of course not a high shooting amount. So the durability of the Poxwalkers can be enhanced with stratagems and refilling the Poxwalkers. And I think the speed of the Poxwalkers with using the stratagem Unleash the Horde 7-inch move is probably key to gaining success with this list and playing aggressively and coming up the board. I think it's not like stay back and wait and see list. And of course, Taliman, I think, is also important, providing command points for the hungry hordes. So basically, they are not hungering for brains, they are also hungering for command points. And then, of course, the big chunks of Terminators offer a good staying power and high melee damage together with Typhus and the Demon Prince. So with these words, this concludes the video. What do you think about this list? And do you have any suggestions or questions about this list? If you have some comments, please leave below. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to the channel, where I will be bringing you more videos on Death Guard related topics and Death Guard tactics. I will also be reviewing more lists. And if you want to support my efforts more, please visit my Patreon page and join the General Yanis Patreon page and join the discussions there, get a bit extra content. And if you also want to, you can provide a list for another list review. So with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.